All right, these are three good stories that I found by visiting an area in East Knoxville. Some are about haunted houses and graveyards and places like that, and a lot of history of Knoxville as well. Starting the first with the Mabry Hazen House. Now, this place is a real old house that's still there. The original furniture in it, which was left there by Evelyn Hazen, which was the last person to live there in the house. The story of this house, though, it comes by the Mabrys, which was created by General Mabry and his wife Laura, who made this house. They had another house out west Knoxville. It was a brick house. It didn't have a lot of windows. It's musty, and they didn't like that, so they wanted to build this house. It's kind of more like an Italian type house. It's kind of tall. It had big, lots of windows in it, so a lot of sunshine could come in. So they moved in this house and were very pretty wealthy off, as he had a railroad company. But something tragically happened, and things didn't go as well, which goes back kind of to another story in the past where him and this other banker got into a skirmish about some land, and the banker, supposedly was accused of hiring a hitman to kill his son Will, his younger son Will, because he was in his actually, you might say his will to get the land that the banker thought that he owned, and they were always in an argument about that, and the general didn't like that, and then actually the person, Mr. Connell, he actually, Connor actually approached him out in one day and killed General Mabry out in the streets of Knoxville, which is pretty bad. But, not to say the least, his older son, Joe Mabry, ran out to go see what was going on and heard, and realizing, Joe had pulled out his pistol and shot Mr. O'Connor. But before Mr. O'Connor went down, he actually pulled out another gun and shot Joe and killed him. So pretty tragic, that goes back to this house where, Laura had, three deaths in 1 year. Her husband and, these two sons, and which is pretty bad. And then the business was going down the tubes, and she's going to lose the house. But fortunately, one of her daughters, Alice Evelyn Mabry, had married into a very rich person, Rush Strong Hazen, and that's how you get the house Mabry Hazen. With is Evelyn Hazen was, one of the daughters of Alice and Rush, and she was, stayed in the house until around, I guess, 1987, you might say, in this house by herself. She never got married. She had some kind of, you might say, a jerk of a guy that was trying to get her to marry him, and he's made all these promises and didn't treat her well, and was really not nice to her, and then she ended up suing him about their marriage and some things, and it just wasn't a good scene. She never did have a marriage after that, so she ended up living in the house from there. But she'd often said, as far as hauntings go, there's, she had somebody visiting in one of her rooms, and said he would be visiting there for a while, and then it mentioned now the person's gone. So she did mention something about somebody haunting one of the rooms in there, as well as there's other people that claim that it's haunted as well, and even in the Halloween, they have seances in this place. So somebody thinks there's some spirits hanging around there. But anyway, it's a really cool place. I wasn't able to get in there and look at it, but I'm gonna have to try to make a trip to get down here. I have to go during the week. It's not open on the weekends. Pretty cool place. But right down the house from the Mabry Hazen House is a place called a Confederate Memorial Cemetery, or it's often known as the Bethel Cemetery, which has about 1,600 Confederate soldiers, and even some 50, 60 Union soldiers were also buried there. This place is often considered to be haunted because of the nature of all, a lot of the Civil War uh, battles, and the ghostly statue that stands up there. A lot of people have said to see a lot of ghost apparitions around that place, as if they're bugles going off, and hear things of that nature down in this place. It's kind of not a whole lot of monument, or not a, they buried a lot of people around here, and there's not a lot of headstones sticking up and things of that nature, but it's just out kind of by itself there. Really cool looking place with this huge big looking statue on it. Couple of places out here. I don't know what they are. So, folks, I had to return back to the area to check out the old Pottersfield and Oddfellows cemetery, which um, Pottersfield, they're not really shown on a map to tell where exactly they are. You have to kind of walk around and find them. And what I found out is, they're kind of merged together. Like this whole area and this whole block here is nothing but different cemeteries. You have maybe a newer one on the left of Bethel, which is Calvary Catholic, which is active, and then you have the cemetery, the Confederate Cemetery Bethel, and then right around that you have Pottersfield, and then Oddfellows Cemetery kind of across the road a little bit to the east of that. But they're all kind of grouped together here. But the story of both these graveyards, particularly in the Pottersfield, is that there was a lot of things going on back in the 1900s because these were like often graveyards of indigents or paupers, foreigners, slaves, prisoners, or unidentified people. But evidently the people in charge here were getting some more money out of not only the graves that they provided for people, but they were also evidently providing bodies to other scientific places and things like that. And nobody really knew anything about that until they did start to see that there was a high problem with this area, and then they started to actually go in there and had to have at least about 100 of these graves exhumed to see who was buried there and who wasn't. And they found a lot of wagon wheels and a lot of junk in a lot of the graveyards. A lot of graveyards didn't actually have, and there was some fake ones as well. So it's there's just a lot of haunted stories related to this, telling about annoying experience, because this is really a mixed up place of different things that happen here. And one in particular is a reverend, actual pastor of this church. He just actually had given a funeral to a man and his daughter the day before. And when they went back to inspect the graves, well, guess what? The graves were empty. And then, of course, he called the police. And again, they found actually where the bodies were taken to. But then they reburied them again. So they say that these two ghosts here that were there to really spook out people and unauthorized visitors around here because of the tales of this happening.
this is the Oddfellows cemetery. Seen a lot of people walking through here. I see like looks like a makeshift home right there. But that's pretty much it right there. Oddfellows. People camped out. What's going on over there? There's just a lot of things over there.
So the Oddfellows had similar type of situations. However, it was later purchased with the Banner Lodge, a kind of a fraternal organization called the Oddfellows, and when they bought that, there was a lot of, they cleaned it up a little more and had other people that were buried there. There was like some other well-known African-American millionaire from Knoxville, Calvin Fackler Johnson, and some other people, some other prominent people that were put here to rest, including Morris Mays, which was later after he got executed, which is not prominent, but it's just one of the hauntings that people talk about here because of the spirits. All the children and the school children and the people who come through here at night will tell you about these. And actually through both of them, Oddfellows and Parsfield, there's a trail that they come through. When they come through this trail at night, they say, not only can they feel like there's a spirit presence in there, obviously, then they take off and then they think and they start running and they say there's actually like something grabbing at their feet as they run through. And that's the story of the spooky hauntings of these places. Pretty cool, pretty good history. Good deal. There's a cool one. Daisy Lucky. There's a lot of them over here. Get back around these apartments here. Pretty cool. These are old and sunken in.
Oddfellows.